My recollection is slightly different. I recall mostly quoting Gandalf. And then this all of a sudden materialized. How are we doing? Let's make some noise for all the poets who've gotten up tonight. Louder, 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 louder. Also, my understanding is that half the poets tonight came in from out of state. All right, make extra noise for all the poets who came in from out of state. That's really beautiful. I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm very lucky, very grateful. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. In the name of poetry, this is a sacred space, I think, like all spaces where stories are told and shared amongst strangers. I actually started slamming at the Artist Quarter, which is a theater in this basement over there, and it was 10 years ago. No, actually 11 years ago now, and I know it was 11 years ago because now instead of warming up by rehearsing my poems, I warm up by stretching. So if I just have to pause tonight, it's because I've pulled something and just cheer and maybe that'll fix it. In any case, I'm going to jump in and do some poems. He went back out. The sentence sounds just like that. A sentence to death and misery, or the desire for misery. I've sentenced myself, yes, many times to die. The pills swelling like a fistful of little white pupils in awe of what they can do in the body. If I'm alive now, it is because of how many times I have failed. My first night clean, I wasn't. I threw up in the street and then stumbled in late. An old man, sober 30 years, said, "Give it 6 months. If you don't like it, you can have all your pain and misery back." But it was mine. It was mine, and I could make as much of it as I needed. How much liquor can the body hold until it leaves itself behind? Each week, a new man enters the room. Each week, another man doesn't come back. What magic, to walk through a door and then appear again as ink in the Sunday paper. He went back out. The sentence, a sentence, spoken so often it becomes a single word, a spell, an incantation of disappearance, the addict, a magician after all. And you wonder where all these men have gone, but you don't, you know. You know there was no long winter out there where we dig through dead pines in search of the bottom. Pain, another way to fly. Misery, another way to vanish. Misery, it is the sweetest word. It flutters on the tongue like sonata, like overture, like other words that carry us into the dark and then beyond it. 10 years ago, I entered a room full of men sitting quietly as if they're waiting for the last open chair to fill. Now, more than half of them are dead. What is a little more pain when pain's eternal? What's a little more music when the skull is a bell? What's a little more knocking against the walls when the body is a cathedral of doors through which all the angels have already fled? Listen, can you hear it out there? The wind aching, the goldenrod reaching up through the snow, where every house is a church, and you are never cold, and the dead are just barely beyond what you can reach, and every life you could have had sings. All right, so I got a new book out. Wahoo! With button poetry, and it's called The Only Worlds We Know. And so I'm going to read all my poems tonight from the book. It took me like 7.5, 8 years to write it. Sam looked at a lot of these poems. Sam and I were on our first Slam teams together, and was like one of my first workshoppers, editors. And Slam is such a beautiful space. I don't think just because the competition is the competition, but like really I think the community that you build with your teammates, with folks you meet on other teams, and build that workshopping environment and that trust, I think is one of the most beautiful parts about this whole thing that we do. So in any case, I'll read some poems and tell some embarrassing stories about Sam from the times that we toured, but we'll save those for later. And what does it mean when you and your love sleep in the same bed for the last time, and you lie awake saying nothing because you know it? And maybe if you never sleep, you'll never wake, and the birds won't sing, and the sun won't know to rise, and you won't ever be alone again. And what does it mean when you can feel her body only a foot from your own? But you are certain if you reached out for her arm or cheek, you would not find anything other than the sheets still warm. And no matter how close she gets to you now, she will always be out of reach. And what does it mean when finally you fall asleep and both awaken to a gunshot in the dark, like a single string in the instrument of night had snapped, and she crawls into your arms for protection? But of course, not the real kind, because that bullet, if aimed at you, would have gone through you both. What does it mean when you realize that's all love is? A small and feeble shelter from the inevitable, from bullets and time, from rain and also drought. And if the bullet were just a tool of grammar in the language of the unspeakable, would it not be a conjunction? Would it not be the word and? For doesn't it connect us to the only two worlds we know? That poem was like mad depressing when I wrote it, and then 4 years later we got back together. So like now it's like a happy ending. So yeah, that's now my favorite part about that poem is that it doesn't make me cry anymore. No. All right. Law of halves is applied to the blade. 2. My math teacher steps toward the blackboard, proving that if you continue to have a distance between 2 points, you will never reach the end. 1. I stood 2 feet from the door, then 1 foot, then 6 inches. Point 5. From the onset of forward motion, the knife must have been 2 feet from the first point of entry. I picture it then being 1 foot, then 6 inches. 0.25. The knife is barely moving now. Its point still hovers over his chest. His shirt is clean and his hair dry, and I have grown older waiting for him to return. 0.125. He has had time to ask his mother why. She has had time to notice his new haircut, his laughter thawing in the air, the basketball spinning forever in his hands. 0.0625. There are still, in the end, atoms shivering between us. In this way, none of us ever really touch. And the blade hovers there forever, and my hand never slides across his casket or holds the morning paper hot with his name. Even now, I feel his face warm against mine, wet with laughter, or perhaps 0. Look, hydration is so important. It's so important. Drink your water. Tapestry in 5 parts. 1, driving north through Minnesota in winter. Our family car without heat. The passenger door held shut with rope. My sisters and I in our snowsuits, squeezed into sleeping bags and buckled tightly in the back seat. It is the closest we will ever be. 2, the abandoned house down the street burning to the ground. The neighbor boys and I cheer in its thundering light. A firefighter is dragged from the house, laid on moving in the street. We tell ourselves he's still alive and continue. 3, in the field beside the ashen ruins of that abandoned house, farm equipment unused since the neighborhood was a farm. A rusted plow the color of embers and clay. New machines make everything into dirt. then slowly a cul-de-sac. 5 mansions begin to form and finish the work of the fire. 4. My friend sits in his car nearby while I grapple with a boy on the sidewalk. I'm on top, punching him in the face. My friend, laughing on 3 tabs of acid, cranks classical radio and cheers as he narrates every swing. I continue, an aria. Snow falls. I continue working diligently like fire, a machine making heat where there is no heat. Somewhere else, more laughter. Perhaps it is mine. 5. It's winter still. Always. Somehow, I am above the soil by luck at this point. My friend next door is wheeled from her house beneath a white sheet. Her husband, home from rehab that morning, sits shivering on the front steps and says nothing. We go to a 12-step meeting that evening. He helps me change my tire. We pretend we are friends too. He asks how to stop it. Years later, he will drink himself to death, and I will hold a pistol in my hand and wonder. How are we doing? How are we feeling? Good. Good. We are all suffering together through. I have no happy poems in this shit, which is fine, which is totally okay. You don't need to have happy poems, but you can write them, like just because, you maybe don't see them that often, but they do exist. I actually have one in here. It's called Joyous Work. I know it's happy because the word joy is in the title. So I'll read that soon, actually. I want to tell a story about Sam. Sam, helped found Button. He's hosting this show, which is great. I haven't seen him up on a stage for a long time. So when Sam and I used to tour together, we'd sleep all sorts of places. Remember, we slept in the car, we slept on everybody's couches. Walked into one house and there was literally 40 pounds of weed in these Tupperwares on the table. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. But that is an illegal amount. And it shouldn't be, but it is. And you should have told us that I was sleeping next to 40 pounds of marijuana. Fuck it. It is 1 a.m. I'm going to sleep. Oh, you have not washed these sheets for 3 years. Okay, cool. But we'd share a lot of beds together, right? And Sam is very active in his sleep. Very active. I sleep like this. I've actually been woken up by partners thinking that I had died in my sleep because I'll sleep like this or like this. Super still, like mummy, right? And I don't move at all. Just one little spot is all I fucking need, right? Just a little bit. I take up very little fucking space in the bed, right? Sam, who's not as tall as he would think he is in the bed, is sleeping like this. He's showing it off. Here it is! It is mine! It's no, it's not. It's a friend of ours. You're sleeping on the couch. Stop fucking taking it. So I woke up one night with no blanket and his whole body everywhere. And I was like, hey, yo, waking up, can you give me a little, can I get some space? Can I get the blanket? And he says, he goes, what? And I'm like, can I have a little bit of the blanket? It's fucking cold. What are you saying to me? Jesus, dude, it's 3 a.m. I have no blanket. Can I get a little, you don't even have to move. Just give me a little bit of the blanket. Yes, I understand the words you are using, but what are you asking me? And I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean, what am I asking you? I'm asking you to give me a parcel of the blanket, 10%. And he's like, yes, I understand what the words bequate to. What is the bequation you are telling me? And I'm like, what the fuck is a bequation? What is bequate? And I'm like, he said it so confidently. I'm like, well, that must be a word. I don't know. So now I'm losing this argument about getting the blanket, which I thought it should have been a democratic process. We each get some of the blanket, right? This should be a discussion. And he just starts using these fake words at me. And he was like, yes. What did he say? He was like, you can't tell me. You can't tell me what you want. You can't. What are you even saying to me? And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. And I got up and just took the blanket. And then I went in the kitchen. I made all the bacon and all the eggs. And I was like, fuck you. You're not getting any breakfast. And I ate all of the bacon and all of the eggs. And I took the blanket, and he had been asleep the whole time. He had no idea any of this happened, that he was berating me with made-up words in his sleep. This happened regularly. He also once tickled me while I was asleep, and when I woke up to protest, he was like, what the fuck's your problem? I was like, I don't have a problem. Love you, man. I mean, this is payback for taking the blankets, so. All right, let's keep the sadness train moving. All right, this is poem. No, I can't even do that after this story. Wait. I was like, fuck, I should have paid more attention in vocab class. I don't know. All right, this poem is called Joyous Work. If there is a perfect joy, it is similar to a fever and begins somewhere in the jowls, then wings out like a hand of cards thrust outward across a table. I know it has come over me. Once in a silo 80 feet deep, I was like a final breath working at the bottom of a lung, leveling out hay dropped from the claw, sliding back and forth along the rafters. I pitched my weight for 12 hours, heaving the wet grass how I have seen some drunk men play the accordion at night when they forget they own anything at all. And so, briefly, they don't. Not even the music itself. This work of the body is the work of what? Not prayer. That's too simple. Not dumb luck either. No, it's more like an invocation left unsaid when it swells and kicks in the body like a frightened horse, and it nearly burns, and we find there are other ways to pray, like working the palms raw, evening out a whole shorn field in a dark tunnel, piling to the top until finally you stand on some unknown tons of hay and step from the lip of the silo like a golden holy thing and fly among the rafters. And it is your exhaustion which carries you, which is for an instant the single thing you own and takes on the quality of the spirit, which you are surprised to find smells of wet grass, the cool rain outside, the swallows roosting, and the grease of the mechanical claw crying out, working back and forth, a hard, dark sea above you. Clean the way a fly is clean, or the way a wound is clean, and a maggot is clean and cleaning. The city, clean as a casket before the body is placed like a pill inside of it. Clean as a pipe washed white by fire. When I was a boy, I cursed so much my mother scrubbed my mouth with soap. And now, what curses do I have left to clean the dead? When I left, I drove east in a car painted the same color as my luck. Out of Minneapolis where the road opens like a stone tulip into all other roads. My last sight of home, a man I knew once driving beside me. When I saw him, I saw he did not see but was a kind of sight. Nothing like the man I once knew, but more like the clothes this man will one day leave behind when he goes. Last I heard, he had already gone, guided by the winding fingers of meth and its nails made of smoke. What can I say now but nothing? What can I say as I head east and all I hear is a dark rattling trailing me like wedding cans for the marriage of dirt and rain? What can I say as I pass through Wisconsin's endlessly green and stupid fields? I come upon a car cleaved in two. The bodies it had carried litter the highway like salt. What a beautiful day to leave home. Let your mouth hang open. What can I say as I pass torn up highway after highway riddled with skeleton crews? In the right light, this thoroughfare looks like a glimmering bone. I mean, a dark breeze ridden with flies, heat cooking the meat straight from the ribs, a deer along I-94 like dead lanterns leading me home. Home to what now? To dirt, to glass, to wind, hollow as a skull in the summer caught inside of it. Somewhere there's a classroom comprised of all my dead friends as they were once, pledging allegiance to a Polaroid developing forever. If old age is not defined by time, but by one's proximity to death, then I grew up with a group of 13-year-olds who were 1,000 years each. Let us sit together now at this table of holy oak. Let us eat well on all we do not have the words to describe. Please pass the gunmetal and salt. Let me preserve this documentation of ruin. Some nights I want to stay this way forever. I want to sing till the grass sews my mouth shut. What is the exact key of an instrument decomposing beneath the dirt? Every road east is a single thread in America's long taxonomy of pain. There is no word for a journey comprised entirely of leaving. What left was there to do but go on driving east with everything I owned, past an endless field of sunflowers, 100-mile stretch of yard sales, an 88 Cutlass, grandma's jewelry, a hickory cabinet. God, if I could make money off this memory, I might just give you everything. How are we doing on time? You good on time? 7 minutes, cool. I have no concept of time, so yo, it's really bad. I'm like, yeah, we have 20 minutes. We can go to the gym. We can make dinner. We can work in the garden. We can go to my mom's piano recital, and then cobble some shoes. I'm famous for having an hour before I have to be somewhere and then starting a home improvement project. I'm like, oh, let's strip the bricks off the paint to the fireplace. That'll take an hour. 4 days later, yeah, sorry, I missed all those things. All right. Also, happy 2020, y'all. It's been pretty fucked up already. So, just hold each other close. If you got folks from Iran, check in on them. If you got Muslim folks, check in on them. This is a fucked up place we live in. And I fear it's going to get worse before it gets better. So it's good to be here with everybody. And keep writing, too. I think there's a belief a lot of times that everybody has to be in the street, everybody has to be doing a very specific thing to fight or to make things move forward. And I always remember this quote by Toni Morrison, who was talking about when she was an editor, before she was even writing, or before she was publishing rather, and she was putting out Angela Davis's book, and she was putting out Muhammad Ali, and she was putting out a lot of folks in the Black Power movement, and she was my spot was not in the front lines. My spot was creating space for these other voices who were, right? And that was hugely important to the movement at that time, right? Poetry and storytelling is hugely important, right? When we talk about free healthcare, when we talk about free college, right? When we talk about things like reparations, and people are oh my God, right? We haven't done that before for white soldiers after World War II. The GI Bill was reparations for white people, right? We've done that before, right? And so we can do that again, but it comes down to imagination. So when we say, we can't afford that, but we can afford $2 trillion for war, it's because we imagine war as a necessity. We don't imagine people in human life as a necessity, right? Especially queer folks and folks of color, poor folks. So keep changing the narratives that are being told, and people's imaginations, and what becomes possible changes as well. So just, love to all the poets in the audience is what I'm trying to say. Appreciate you. This is from my little brother, Don. I float home across the plains, over this dark thread of road, past the lights along the Minnesota River, golden nails fastening shut the horizon, past the snow-covered fields reflecting the moon's wet light, until we can no longer tell what is land or water or sky, and we cannot tell which our brother rests in now. Everything to the east darkens, and the whole country closes around the heart of the Midwest, around its churches and its silos, its pilgrims journeying before death to kneel and kiss its winding fingers, its noble silence spreading between the Mississippi and the Rust Belt like a moth-torn quilt, an elegy left unsaid at the edge of the lips. Death, though it is final, is also hesitant and unsure. It is the persistent silence which follows that convinces us this boy in the ground was the one. This land, too. These factories and these barges, sunning themselves in the gray light as if they might dip beneath the water and reemerge glistening and alive. These docks and these cranes, these warehouses angling into the shadows preserved in a death-like geometry, though tenuous, as if we clap and summon the Lord, if we stomp our feet until we cannot smell what keeps the body here, until the body shakes, then might these songs wake him? Might these factories turn and light like a bulb screwed in? Might we be sentenced like, not final, but running on forever through the grammar of mourning, the grammar of laughter when laughter is all we have left, until all that is left is his skin and his bones, and we who buried him are only stories or ash on our grandchildren's mantles, and his name, spray painted on the Oak Park wall, is painted over or chips off and washes into the dirt. And his bones too become earth. And the bullet in his leg is all that remains and rests, a small black seed opening in his coffin. All right, y'all are wonderful. I'm going to do one more and get out of here because I, like the rest of you, want to see the rest of the slam. Also, hello to people on the internet. I, too, am of the internet. And if you like, you can follow me on the internet at Michael Lee Writes. On Instagram, I mostly post pictures of my dog, who is very cute, so it'll behoove you to go there if you like dogs. His name is Levis, but all the neighbor kids call him Lettuce. Which is like the best thing. They come knocking on the door. Can we play with lettuce? Absolutely. Did your mother say it was okay? I really wanted to make like a lettuce like recall salmonella joke, but there was no way it was going to land with the 6-year-olds. Like I never got the opportunity to do that. Like, no, I don't play with lettuce. They just recalled it. Your pain or any pain isn't worth any more than the words we can dig up to describe it. Tell me of the knife, but make it pretty. Tell me of the collarbone reaching out of the skin like a branch, but make it soft. Everyone wants us to spill poetically in a way that goes down easy. They want us to speak of maps by referring to their border and not by what's inside of them. I dreamt you still named. I dreamt you naked. I dreamt you leaking from the knife's advances. I dreamt you siphoning out your own life through the needle. I dreamt your spine crumbling like a palace of cards. I dreamt every dead person I know was the same and lived in the same cramped alley of my skull. I will tell you these stories until the words materialize. I can stop up a wound I know. I might as well try to gather rain with a sieve, but God damn it, I need to try. I've been walking around with a fistful of consonants, believing the dead are like windows. This poem and other poems, a handful of rocks. I want to shatter each of your faces. Oh, family, oh, friends, like you might walk out from behind those gaps in your smiles. Sometimes I hold a word to my ear like a conch shell. Sometimes I curse the ocean for what it cannot or will not say. I surround these bodies with sentence after sentence, and the words begin to chant like a crowd. The words become music. The words become an orchestra of flies. I almost believe you will wake up, all of you, together. I almost believe your name will slither its way back into your body and you will kick back to life like a junkyard cutlass and walk out of your own funerals laughing. How absurd. This choir of weeping, these caskets planted in the dirt like seeds. It is so cold in this winter's lexicon, this language of nothing, of once was or never will be again. Sometimes I want to kill my uncle for being a more miserable drunk than I was. Sometimes I want him to die already so I can just write about it. Sometimes I too want to be a poem. I don't want to be this pain, but the language used to unearth it. Sometimes I curse archaeologists for their basic tools, telling us basic things. Sometimes I think scientists are lazy. I, too, could dig a heart out of a chest, but what do any of you know about removing the history from a body without killing it? Just yesterday, scientists discovered a new ligament in the human knee. Just yesterday, I found out I can't sleep for a whole new set of reasons. Just yesterday, I wrote, and 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 I kept writing because I've committed to not killing anyone, especially myself. Just yesterday, I found new ways to say, I miss you. My God, how I miss you all. Thanks, y'all. I love y'all. Keep writing. I'm going to be out there signing books, selling books. We got lots of books. I love you.